everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today we are continuing on our blind spot project where we are talking about movies that we've never seen before and our experiences watching them for the first time. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And this is actually my 98th blind spot review that I wrote, which is pretty crazy. Of course, couldn't do this alone. Manda's here. And how are you doing, Manda?
Hey, I'm so excited to be back doing this with you, Rachel.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this one for sure.
Yeah, it's been a
I've
bit. Just
yeah.
because I was in Texas and
hmm
everything. Do you have a good March?
Yeah, it's been really busy. I've been watching a lot more TV lately, which
Oh,
is
okay.
interesting because I'm not a TV person. But I've been
Uh-huh.
trying to just binge more from Netflix to see what they have to offer. So it's been
Uh-huh.
good. It's been steady. Can't
Anything
complain.
good? Anything to recommend?
Um, I really thought that Three Body Problem was decent. I didn't think it was amazing, but obviously it's from the same creators of Game of Thrones, so I binged that and I was really impressed with it. Um, wasn't in love with it, but I thought it was pretty good with everything that was explored in the sci-fi nature. So I thought the show was pretty good. It was
Oh, I
decent.
haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
book too, so I was like, okay, let
Oh.
me kind of cover it and see what it's about. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course I was at South by Southwest and so I watched a bunch of movies there. And I've kind of been struggling because I did my first recap of the movies that I watched at South by Southwest. And then the second part, I pretty much every screening I was just not feeling good. And so I
Mm.
kept, playing this game and just
Yeah.
struggling. And it's like I feel like I did I feel like I could write reviews for them,
hmm
but like it also on the same breath, it's like I was feeling so rotten. I don't want that to impact. And I didn't have COVID. I took tests, everything. Like it's just
hmm
allergies. So I wasn't contagious. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just some hard situations as a critic, like how you decide, like, I don't want my personal situation to overly impact the film. Like, it's always going to impact it some, but I don't know. I'm
Definitely.
just struggling whether can I give them a fair shake or not. I don't
Yeah.
know. I still haven't decided. It's hard sometimes.
Oh, I definitely agree. With anything that's going on in like our lives as critics, it's really hard to not like maybe turn that part off or, and
Yeah.
try to immerse yourself. Like I've had that experience too, where I'd have to kind of postpone writing certain reviews, even with my notes, and try to pull it out afterwards when I feel like full 100%. Because I know that like it's hard to even write or record
Yeah.
or form a sentence even if you're not at 100%. So yeah,
Yeah. I was
freelancers are
thinking what I might do is just write up the summaries, but not add them to Rotten Tomatoes,
yeah,
and I think that might be kind of a fair compromise. And then
definitely.
wait maybe till I could see it again and then be like, okay, I agree with what I wrote, sort of a thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, that seems
Might
fair. Yeah.
do. I might do. I don't know. It's interesting,
It's
but
hard, I know.
yeah.
I know.
uh, but today we are talking for Blind Spot. We're talking about John Wick from 2014. And I know a lot of people like mouse agape. They cannot believe that I haven't seen the first John Wick, but I don't really love super violent movies. It's not my favorite. And
Mhm.
since I wasn't a critic in 2014, I had no reason to really see this movie.
Yeah.
And then by the time that I had become like an accredited on the press list, kind of a thing where I'm sort of more expected to see almost everything.
Mhm.
Then we were already at the third movie. And so it's like by that point, I'm already so behind that it feels like like it feels like too much. And so I just have never watched any of these movies. It's like one of those franchises that I had this blind spot for. And
Mhm.
I mean, I know for you, you have seen this first one, but you haven't seen any of the others, right?
Yeah, so I watched the first one because everyone's like, "This is the best action movie that we've seen in so long," and I'm like, "Okay, let me watch it." And then, I will explain later on. I'm not gonna give away everything here.
Yeah.
I saw bits and pieces of the sequels. So I'm not really like fully on board. And with
Hmm.
this rewatch, I still am in that camp, unfortunately. And I don't want to like start this
Yeah.
out like that, but yeah, that's where I'm
Well, you
sitting.
know, it's interesting because I think for most people, they went into this with no expectations or low expectations, thinking this is like kind of direct to DVD, kind of,
Hmm.
you know, like this is nothing budget. Like, so you
Yeah,
go into it and you're like, whoa, that was way better than I expected. And so much of our
definitely.
movie experience is dictated by our expectations. Even as critics, we try as hard as we can to like be objective and to put those, you know, expectations aside. But
Yeah.
we are human beings and that's going to affect us to some degree. And so I think for 99% of people, that was the experience that they have with this movie is
Hmm.
that they went into it in 2014 expecting nothing and being really surprised. But like I at least now I'm having sort of the opposite experience where it's been built up, built up, built up, built up as this
Right.
action masterpiece. And then I watch it and I'm like, ooh, wow. I mean, there are some things I think it does really well, and we'll talk about it.
Hmm.
But like you can definitely feel the budget big time in
Oh yeah.
this. And so it's just an interesting different experience I think that like I'm having. You'd seen it before, but coming back to it
Hmm.
that that I think is just different than what a lot of people experienced.
Oh, definitely. Like I didn't go to the theater to watch this, and
Yeah.
I didn't watch it on a big screen, which I think is a massive takeaway. I think watching it on a big screen probably would have enhanced the action scenes, I
Uh-huh.
think. So that was a big factor for me. But I didn't really remember anything that happened in John Wick. There was
Mm-hmm.
there's probably like one massive fight scene in the
Yeah.
nightclub that I vividly remember. But the other ones were just like wiped from my memory, and I had watched it maybe 2, 3 years after its release. Um,
Mm.
but
So
like you
you
said,
basically had the same experience I
yeah,
had. Like by the time you saw it, it had been kind of built up.
people are like, you have to watch it. You
Yeah.
haven't watched John Wick yet. It was like constant, and I'm like, okay, this better be better than Mission Impossible, which is like my favorite franchise ever. And then you watch it, and you're like,
Yeah.
what am I missing? Why am I
Mm-hmm.
not connecting with him? And it kind of sucks because I want to feel that way about a new franchise. You know what I mean? Like it just sucks that I want to say I'm disappointed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just very underwhelmed with what was offered in the film.
Mm.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
I mean, there are the biggest strength I think to this film is I think that they were very smart in keeping things super simple. That
Mhm.
it that they don't like in this sense I do think it's better than at least the most recent Mission Impossible movie in the sense that that one gets so convoluted with stupid plot with AI and you know whatever, like I don't care about that at all.
Yeah.
And whereas this I think it's much smarter in how they just give this very simple motivation for the character.
Hmm.
He's this hitman. He had retired. His wife dies. His wife gives him this beloved puppy. The idiot hoons goons beat him up and kill the puppy. So he is just like a very simple revenge motivation. It
Yeah.
makes sense. You don't need to get to know the character. You don't need to like
Mhm.
for this kind of movie. I think that was extremely smart.
I agree with that. And they didn't think that it was going to do as well as it did to garner a franchise. I think this
Yeah.
was supposed to be a standalone, a one-off. And like you said, you didn't need to know his backstory. You didn't need to know the other characters either. Although it is simple, I do feel like it got messy with other characters, not necessarily him. Like obviously his motivation is very clear, but it was just the interconnectedness of like one goon and one head guy and the other head guy and the other Russian goon. And then like Willem Dafoe's magically in here as well. And they were hiring him. So I think that I kind of got lost in, which is the reason why the first one didn't really sell me. Whereas if he the first time that I watched it didn't sell me, and I felt the exact same thing last night when I watched it. So I think that in its simplicity, they could have even made the villains more simple as well. I think that got messy in the web versus like John Wick was perfect.
I can see that. I could see that.
You know what I mean? So I think it was a weird balance because everything with John Wick, I'm like, yeah, like the dog is dead. Like, of course you're gonna go after them and like beat them all and all of that. And then the action scenes got repetitive in the second half for me because of the goons. And I couldn't really decipher whose side they were on, kind of. So it was a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean they were pretty like bland. The goons. And it might have been nice if they had found a way to connect the various sort of good guys more together, make it more of a team feel. Yeah. And I don't know if they do that in some of the others, but because you've got like Lance Reddick, you've got Ian McShane, you've got John Leguizamo, that they all could have, and William Dafoe, they have this backstory. That, if they had been kind of a little bit of sort of formed a team at the end, that might have been kind of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree
with
with that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
The thing I guess that surprised me a little bit for how much I'd heard about the action and how great the action was. I'm not saying it wasn't good. It was good, but I felt like you could definitely feel the budget, especially the fact that every single action scene was at night. It was all dark, which I think does hurt the spectacle of it a little bit because it's so easy to just hide so much when it's dark.
Yeah.
And literally every action scene is dark. And I thought there was only one that was the one in the nightclub, the action scene in the nightclub was the only one that used the darkness, I think, in interesting ways. Because of they're in the nightclub, they have some like fluorescent lights and some different things. So there's some sort of artistry, I think, to the long takes and the other things going on there that I appreciate.
Oh, I definitely agree. Like I said, that was the one that always stuck out to me. And then watching it again last night, I was watching the other action scenes and I'm like, but they're so repetitive. He's being just nifty with a gun. You can't really see his skills because it's pitch black. It's not well lit. And you can't see his skill set, which is what I'm technically paying to see as well, because what makes John Wick so incredible other than like his rage and then having a good shot? Like, is that all we have for John Wick? And it sucks because, again, I don't want to compare to other franchises, but like you see what Ethan Hunt does in Mission Impossible. Like he does all of those stunts. He's like well versed in hand-to-hand combat. You see different sides of him. Whereas with John Wick, it's like if he doesn't have a gun.
It's true. Especially the last action set piece of the film is pretty much just a shootout. It's a gun. And like gun action is really not very exciting because like bigger gun beats other gun. Like it's whereas opposed to like when people are fighting with their bodies, like there's so many other factors that come into play that make it more exciting. Definitely. And I had actually heard from my friend Conrado saying that he felt like that was a problem with the John Wick movies, is that they were overly reliant on guns. And so I don't know if that's something continuing on through the franchise, but it does make the action, I think, a little bit less exciting when it's so reliant on the guns.
Yeah, definitely. I think they changed it in the other 3 films because I know that there's even like bigger and better fight sequences and they gave him more room to do certain things, I guess, to learn. But yeah, based off of this alone, I agree that like we didn't get to see enough of his skill set to make it interesting enough to be like, wow, I'm gonna go into John Wick 2 because I want to see what else he can do. Like I felt nothing at the end of that
Yeah.
film.
I do think it's kind of funny that there is that Dean Winters has a role in this movie, and he's the Allstate guy. He's the
Yeah.
mayhem.
I saw him like, oh my God. I know. It's so funny. It really is.
Like, is that really him?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was like, is that really him? It is. It's the mayhem guy.
There's so many people in this that you're just like, when you spot them, you're like, wow, he's also in this and he's also in this. It's like, okay, well, when I saw John, I can never pronounce his last name correctly because it's a tongue twister. But when I saw John Leguizamo, no.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I always mispronounce his name and I don't want to because it's like a wicked last name and he's so cool. But when I always see him, I was like, oh my God, like I love that he's in a movie because he's great and
They
he
could
had
have
a great
used him
role in this.
more, I think.
Yeah, especially
They
because
really
he
could
knows
have.
him too. I'm like, but why are we just putting him in like maybe, I don't know, 2 scenes? Like it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense. And even like the car stealing and all of that, I'm like, it just took one wrong thing, one wrong person on one wrong day. And they could have still, I feel like, used that instead of making him connected to the Russians. You know what I mean? Like, let's just say it's like you picked the wrong guy type of thing and just roll with it. And they weren't goons and it would just be like tied to a big organization. I think that it would have been, like you said, if they kept it more simple and with like a maybe 48-hour time span, I think it would have been better in my opinion. But I don't.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years, each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
I was surprised watching it that really the action doesn't start until the 30-minute mark. That before that, it's just basically him getting beaten up.
Yeah, majority.
Yeah, that there's no like actual fisticuffs. And again, I wrote down the first action scene is in the night, which is interesting. And I did think it was like I did like that the movie had like a little bit of a sense of humor. It didn't take itself like super seriously. Like the scene when the waste disposal come and take all the bodies, because that was funny to me because you think about all these action movies that, you know, people are like taking down all these goons out, you know, in a scene or whatever. And you never see them like, you never see the cleanup. Like, who takes care of all these people? You know, because they're on to the next thing. And I thought that was a pretty, like, kind of a funny scene.
Yeah, that is fun. That was a good time. I chuckled.
And then we get the big brawl at the bar. And I wrote down another dark action scene, but there is some cool lighting in it.
Yeah.
And in that scene, the sniper almost shoots him.
Yes.
So there's that's Willem Dafoe. And then there's this woman that he fights. That was, what's her name? I forget her name.
Was that Adrienne Palicki?
Yes. She's the hit woman.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I thought was a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
Between them. That was almost more that when you get like the one-on-one fighting, I almost enjoyed more than like the big spectacle.
Right.
Scenes.
I agree. I'm always a person for hand-to-hand combat because I just think that takes more skill based on like choreography. And I think that that's what impresses me the most with certain action scenes. And that's why I like that scene too. It was pretty good. She kicked his butt. So that made me happy. Sorry, John Wick, but it's true.
Yeah. And then what was the guy named Harry? I don't even see that on the cast list. I've written down Harry.
Maybe it was another character in another movie that you remembered him as
Probably.
Harry. You're like, this guy was Harry and something.
So the woman beats up. I've written down Harry, but I don't think that's his name. I think I wrote down the wrong name. And then she says, "Housekeeping will find you." You know that.
Yes. Yes. I know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Oh, his name.
I think I wrote down the wrong name, but
It's okay.
anyway, and so then we get our first scene of him and Vigo together, and he gets kind of beat up by this Vigo. And I do think that they do a pretty good job of making John Wick like intimidating and strong, but not like a superhero. Like he does get beat pretty bad, like multiple times throughout the movie. And I think that helps, because if he was just like invulnerable, then it would be pretty boring.
Oh, definitely. Like you need your lead character to get like shot maybe once and not be so clean cut, which is a prime example of why I liked like Daniel Craig's Bond movies over some other Bond movies, is that he wasn't afraid to get like down and dirty, and he had cuts and bruises.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because other Bond films, they're kind of polished and they're like,
like
oh, there's not a scratch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not realistic for who James Bond is. He's human.
Yeah.
He has no superhero powers. So that's why I agree. Like, that's an aspect of John Wick that I appreciated as well.
So then there's this scene with him shooting up this church. I thought that was a pretty intense scene. And then another scene where he lights fire to all the money in the vault.
That was cool. That slow-mo walking out. I was like,
that was pretty good. That was
cool.
So Vigo was very upset about that. Obviously.
He was so funny to watch, though. I'm like, that's comic relief right there. He was hilarious the whole time. Yeah.
So then this sniper guy, the William Dafoe, he helps him get out of this situation with Vigo.
Yeah.
They know you're coming. And he says, of course, but it won't matter. So then he finally gets a chance to take out the Vigo sons, the ones that killed his dog.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite shots in the movie is when he shoots the guy through the headphones while he's playing the video games.
Yeah, that's scene.
And that scene, I was like, that was cool. It went straight through, and I'm like, yeah, we don't see that every day. So that was cool.
That was pretty gnarly.
That was good.
And you get the impression that Vigo doesn't like care that you're really that much about his son.
He doesn't care. But it's funny because like he didn't care at the beginning, and he's like, he's coming for you, man. Like I can't do anything about it. You're screwed. And then he cares a little bit, and then he doesn't care. So it kind of fluctuated based on his mood the whole movie. So I'm like, do you love your son?
I can't remember. Does it say at the beginning why the robbers came after him to begin with?
He wanted the car.
After him because the Vigo is like, you stole John Wick's car and murdered his dog. He's upset about it.
Yeah.
He's upset about it. And
all because he just like, I'm not giving you the keys to my car. I know my Mustang is fly. Like I bought it for that. Like it's my car. And then he just answered him kind of weird. And I look at the character as like Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones.
It's his Mustang.
Yeah, it's his Mustang. So I was like, I see Theon Greyjoy. I'm like, he's bad news.
It says, a few days later, a group of Russian gangsters led by Joseph Tarasov accost John at gas station and failed to intimidate him into selling them his Boss 429 Mustang. That night, they break into John's home, assault him, kill the puppy, and steal the car. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
That's when they take the car to John Leguizamo's shop, and he's like, "What? I'm not working on John Wick's car."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't, I get it and I don't. And it's still kind of like a weak thing
Yeah.
to like start all of this over, especially if they know him.
It is true. Like you would think that they would have more, that the son of the Russian mafia boss would be a little bit smarter. Wouldn't just like,
yeah.
They'd just be like, okay, move on to other cars and other fancy, it seems, yeah, again, I like the fact they keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because one of my pet peeves about modern action movies is that we've gotten to the point where we have so many scenes where characters are standing around staring at screens, and
true.
I think is so boring. I hate it. And the most recent, when they decided to do that extra Bourne movie, I'm like, why did you make this movie? 90% of the movie, they're staring at screens.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And there was a big problem I had with Fast 8 it's where those movies kind of lost me, is Charlize Theron, her entire character is staring at a screen the entire movie.
All it is every time. I'm like, okay, she's useless, but
it's just a big problem that you see more and more and more, and you're just like, it's so odd to me, because you're like, these action movies are supposed to be action filled. They're not supposed to be looking at screens the whole time.
It's true.
And so at least this movie, they keep it moving.
They do. There's a lot of action scenes. There's a lot. Some of them better than others, but like the whole second half is just like every 5 minutes he's getting into more trouble. So I can commend them for that. That's like nonstop.
Yeah. So he shoots these guys because they really were so stupid, so dumb, so dumb.
Like,
and then he tells William Dafoe, "I'm retired." And then this Vigo guy beats up Willem, and it was pretty gruesome scene when he stabs him in the leg.
Yeah,
and he's like moving it and everything.
Pretty
like,
graphic. You're like, no, I don't want to see it. Yeah, those things get to me. So
yeah. And so we get this whole scene with John fighting Vigo, and like I said, this whole sort of final action scene was the most gun heavy, I think, of the whole movie.
Yeah, that's where it kind of lost me. I'm like, I don't care what happens because they have guns. I was just so checked out by then.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then the one-on-one with John and Vigo on, like, I think it was the rooftop, and then it started raining. That was pretty cool. I'm like, you needed like a final standoff between the two of them. So yeah, I like that part.
Yeah. And then he treats his wounds and gets a new puppy.
The new pupper.
Yeah.
The best way to end it. He was so cute.
So
like, give me more of the dog.
Let's talk a little bit about Keanu Reeves here. It's so interesting because I think he's an interesting actor, because I don't think he's particularly talented. I don't think he's a great actor, but I think he is very good at choosing projects. And
yes,
he has managed to keep himself relevant for all these decades. So he you gotta give him a lot of props. And he's done a little bit of everything in his career.
Yeah.
And so for him to sort of and he did, when he was younger, he did action as well, something like Point Break
and Speed.
That's right, with Speed. And of course The Matrix also had big action.
See, I'm not a Matrix, maybe I'm not a Keanu fan, because I didn't vibe with The Matrix either.
Oh really? Like, even the first one?
I watched the first one in one of my film lectures, I remember, and I was just like, everyone hyped this movie up, and I don't get The Matrix. And I was like, I feel so bad because I didn't get The Matrix. But maybe it's a Keanu thing. I don't know. Breaks my heart.
Yeah, I do like. I think The Matrix has like interesting things it's trying to say. It's a lot more heady than this John Wick.
Oh, definitely.
Like it's trying to, and then it kind of fails at saying them in the second and third one. But yeah, you think he did everything from the Bill and Ted's to to Point Break. He did the Bram Stoker's Dracula. He
That
has
was
done
good
a
too.
wide range. I have a soft spot in my heart for a little movie he did called A Walk in the Clouds, where he's not great in it. He's pretty flat, but I just love that movie. It's very romantic and
Yeah.
beautiful.
No.
Yeah, the man has done a little bit of everything, and I do think that he is very smart in his career in picking choices
Yeah.
and using his skills to the best of his ability for the roles.
I think that he's had so much hardship in his personal life that he is such a beautiful human being. He has such a like great soul, and I think that's why people will always support
Rooting
him.
for him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was out for a while before John Wick. Like we didn't know what was happening with Keanu, and I think just the renaissance of him as John Wick really just made him like popular again, and he has a whole fan
Mhm.
base now. And I'm not saying he never did, but I just think that hearing all of those stories and what he's gone through has just made him like so humble and so kind. And I think that's what also just generates his star power as well for
Yeah.
him just being down to earth.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like people really like working with him, and that goes a
Yeah.
long way in this business, that's for sure.
Definitely,
It really
definitely.
does.
Yeah.
And then pretty much everybody I know has said that the series does improve
Hmm.
after this, because I mean it makes sense because they would get more budget and they would be able to do more things,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it goes in sort of more creative paths with Continental and creating this whole world building and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't want to sound too, because I did enjoy. I thought it was like, for what it is, I gave it a 7 out of 10. So for me, it was like,
Yeah.
I thought it was smart in that it kept everything really simple. And so it was effective on that level of just like
I agree.
a very simple revenge story. I just didn't think it was like some kind of action masterpiece.
I
But
agree.
yeah, and so, but that's a high bar to kind of be setting
I know.
for him. And you also have to think of the fact that he is older.
Mm.
How old is
I
Keanu
think
Reeves?
he's in his 50s. I'm not
That
100% sure.
he's not 59. He's
There you go.
59. So he's not
Whoa.
yeah, so he's not going to be able to do the same action that
No.
he was able to do when he was doing Point Break, like it's
No.
going to be different. And so that may also be slightly why they do so much dark shooting,
Yeah.
is to kind of hide that and hide the stunts, the doubles and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I think, damn, I didn't realize he was 59. He looks fantastic for 59.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He looks so good.
Hmm.
That's another thing. He's very easy on the eyes, Keanu. That's all we can say too.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I get it. Like the stunts are gonna be difficult for him just as they're, difficult for Tom Cruise, even though he's doing it all on his own and he's crazy for that. But I totally
Yeah.
get like the night scenes. But I also think that it's an aesthetic choice because I think that a lot of the action scenes that I've seen from like the second, third, and fourth movie, they're all like in dark spots with like
Yeah.
these really cool neon lights. So I think it just stays true to like the aesthetic choices. And I think the reason why people were so amazed in 2014 by this first installment is because we hadn't really had good action movies.
Yeah, like I said, people are just staring at screens. And
Yeah.
so to have something that like felt a little more visceral and a little, they
Hmm.
used like, there wasn't like green screen and wasn't
Yeah.
using all these effects, that it felt,
Very
because
practical.
we were kind of in Marvel and
Yeah.
everything's world where everything is green screened and visual effects, and those can
Yeah.
be fun, but yeah, if you think about like the action and say like Black Panther, which looked
Like
fake,
computery. Yeah, it
which
did.
I enjoy that movie, but
Yeah.
whereas this, it does feel like punches are landing,
Yeah. It's
which
true.
is good. I think it's
Yeah.
good. Well, so what I gave it 7 out of 10. What would you give it out of 10?
I gave it well, if it was a 3 out of 5, I'd say 6, 7 out of 10. It's roughly
Yeah,
the same.
same.
I was underwhelmed. I'm like, oh, this was good. It was kind of enjoyable. Keanu was cool. And then at the end of the film, I'm like, yeah, I feel the exact same. Like, I wouldn't care to watch a second one, and I still probably won't watch the rest of the franchise because I'm just like, I didn't care enough,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, it's not really, my thing, but that's the
Mhm.
whole point of this blind spot project, is to kind of force you out of your comfort zone and watch things that
Definitely.
you wouldn't normally watch, and
Yeah.
or that you hadn't seen that are popular. And next month we are going to have another one out of my comfort zone. We are going to be talking about The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Can't wait. I cannot wait. Finally. I'm like, I've been waiting to watch this film. I am so excited to watch it. So
Yeah, because last year I did A Fistful of Dollars, which was also
Mhm.
directed by Sergio Leone,
Mhm.
starring Clint Eastwood. And I thought it was a good story. It was a good movie.
Mhm.
And this one, it's a bounty hunting scam joins two men in an uneasy alliance against a third in a race to find a fortune in gold buried in a remote cemetery. So this is from 1966, and it should be pretty fun.
So
Should be
excited.
pretty fun.
Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to for April. Yeah, so this was really fun. Let us know
Yeah.
what you think of the first John Wick. And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And Manda, where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll put my link to my blind spot review if you want to read more about what I thought about the film. And you can find that there. And also check out the Hallmark is podcast. Lots of stuff going on over there. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Check out our playlist of all our blind spot episodes so far. They've been a lot of fun to do. And thanks so much. This was really fun.
Yeah.
And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.